Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty advisor, and we're going to get into some pretty big news today. As this Bloomberg article says, Fed extends emergency programs 3 months to end of year. Well, we knew it was going to come, but it's not a great thing to see actually in front of our eyes. We're going to go into this and more today, but first make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to help us get around the shadow banning. Join our newsletter at www.iamband.com. It takes 2 seconds. Just put in your email. We won't spam you. It helps us keep up with you. Obviously, we are completely viewer funded, so check out our links for GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. It's what keeps us alive and allows us to bring you this information on a day-to-day basis, nonstop, 24/7. Also, make sure to check out our other social media pages on alternative social medias like Flote.app, BitChute, LBRY, and Minds, as we will not be on YouTube much longer. We'll probably be off by November 5th, only posting trailers after that to our full content on these other sites. So we really appreciate it. And of course, if you want to become a client of Tim Picciott's, you can find that at thelibertyadvisor.com. All links below. Again, anyway, let's get into this. As the Zero Hedge article says, Fed extends emergency lending programs through end of year. And as the article goes into, U.S. stock prices are at record highs and credit spreads near record lows amid hopes and prayers for the V-shaped recovery, which has already sent U.S. macro surprise data soaring. But it appears the Fed is not buying the bounce and feels the economy needs help. A little longer extended most of its emergency lending programs by 3 months through the remainder of 2020. And you see Jerome Powell, who thinks he's Superman with a cold cloth on his head. He needs it. He's a little hungover from all the printing. As it continues here, it says the Federal Reserve Board on Tuesday announced an extension through December 31st on its lending facilities that were scheduled to expire on or around September 30th. The 3-month extension will facilitate planning by potential facility participants and provide certainty that the facilities will continue to be available to help the economy recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, or the government destroying the economy, or the Fed printing. That's just my own editorial there. As it continues, it says the board's lending facilities have provided a critical backstop, stabilizing and substantially improving market functioning and enhancing the flow of credit to households, businesses, and state and local governments. Each facility was created under Section 13(3) of the Federal Reserve Act with the approval of the Treasury Secretary. The extensions applied to the primary dealer credit facility, the money market mutual fund liquidity facility, the primary market corporate credit facility, the secondary market corporate credit facility, the term asset-backed securities loan facility, the Paycheck Protection Program liquidity facility, and the Main Street lending program. The municipal liquidity facility is already set to expire on December 31st, with the commercial paper funding facility set to expire on March 17th, 2021. And since these programs are as permanent as death and taxes, no matter the claims from Powell and the Fed to the contrary, expect many more 3-month extensions from now until the day the U.S. dollar loses its reserve status. Tim, obviously this is not going to end anytime soon. To think that it's just going to end on December 31st is hilarious. What do you think?
Actually, I wrote down on here that nothing is as permanent as a temporary government program. And yeah, it's not government, but I mean, you go back to September, I think it was 17th of last year, when they had their, repo programs. And I'm not going to, belabor we did a ton of shows on the repo market and what that is. And you guys can go back and watch those. But, initially it was, we just need to have, like $40 billion. And it turned into eventually turned into like $1 trillion overnight. And then eventually turned into, they don't even need to have, reserves at all. So it sort of, negated the fact to even have a repo market. But then originally, this was quantitative tightening, where what they were doing is that they thought they were going to be able to sell $50 billion of bonds a month. And so, it goes from being able to sell $50 billion of bonds a month to 11 months later having to literally stimulate to $1 trillion a day. So it's funny how, how quickly, that ends up turning around. But, right now, the stock market is almost at all-time highs. The Nasdaq's basically at an all-time high. You have bond yields are, pretty much at all-time lows. And so, why is the stock market, or why is the Federal Reserve having to keep doing this? even, given the backdrop that the stock market and the bond market's exactly where they wanted to be, because they know as soon as they pull this out that it's going to, everything's going to end. And so what does 3 months get us at? So right now we're, July 28th. So we've got, August, September, October. Oh, wait, it's going to end a week and a half before the election? That seems like a pretty, maybe it won't be extended. Maybe they'll wait like 2 or 3 weeks and on November, I don't know when the election is, but let's say it's November 8th or something, then they're going to announce, oh yeah, well, we're going to extend this another 3 months. And so they're going to pull the credit, contract the credit like Nicholas Biddle did of the Second Central Bank of America. And even all these corporate facilities, it's probably illegal to have these corporate facilities, but, so the Fed can't come out and directly buy, they're buying government bonds too, but buy, the corporate bonds. But if they create a facility to do it, like a shell company, then the shell company can, and they're not only are they buying them, but they're buying them using leverage, 7-to-1 on junk bonds, up to 7, up to 10 on the investment grade bonds. And it's just something that most people just don't even know, aren't even aware of, that's actually going on. And the other thing that the Fed is really good at is, just jawboning. They're just talking about things. And so they can actually get a lot done just by talking about something in anticipation as people front run what the Fed is doing. But yeah, nothing is as temporary as a government program. And
well, Tim, this is so ridiculous because it's always them. They cut your throat and then they put a bandaid on it. It's just so ridiculous. They create the problem in the first place. They come in as a solution. It's a perfect example of what I've always mentioned here at WHAM, the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat. This is exactly what we're witnessing right now. They keep creating crisis and then coming in as a solution, hoping people forget that they created the crisis so that everyone praises them for the solution, which ends up creating another crisis long term, which they come in as a solution for. It just goes on over and over again. This isn't about the coronavirus. The coronavirus was a catalyst to a much bigger issue that was going to happen eventually anyway. It just took the right thing to little tap on the dominoes for all the dominoes to fall over. And now we see the results of massive government, central planning, central banks, central planning, government regulations, taxes, laws, impoverishing millions, and then the banks coming in, fractional reserve lending, all this craziness. It always was going to end this way eventually. And now they're like, oh, well, we created this problem. They keep calling it a coronavirus shutdown. It's a government shutting down the populace, shutting down freedoms, shutting down the markets, creating or taking control of the markets, basically coming in, like, for example, in Britain, them saying that all these small business loans that they're giving out to these small businesses, all these guys, they can't pay back their debts, so the government's going to take over it with equity in these companies of these businesses they're lending money to. That's communism and fascism. Really, they're taking over the properties, so that's a communism. They're taking over the businesses, that's fascism. It's perfect fascio-communism to lead us into the Chinese-style system that I do believe is going to happen once the dollar completely gets replaced by the yuan as a world reserve currency. But this is extremely dangerous, what we're witnessing right now, because they are basically creating these problems and they're not letting a crisis go to waste. And, they're laughing at this. They think that people just keep giving up little by little by little by little, and then they come in and say, oh, well, there's 28 million people homeless. We'll give you free homes. Now they own all the homes. Or, they print all this currency. They completely destroy the value of the currency. It's going to cause massive inflation, the hidden tax of inflation. And they're like, oh, well, we'll help you with this new program. Eventually, people are just 100% enslaved by the government, and they don't know what happened because they never understood the system to begin with. And that's what we are witnessing right now. So this whole program, they're printing all this money. They're into the stock market, destroying people's lives, coming in as a solution while slowly whittling away their freedom. This is absolute tyranny. And the fact that we haven't done anything about it other than talk about it and complain about it really, really angers me at this point. Because, at what point do we say, enough is enough, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore, shout it out the windows at the top of your lungs, because eventually this is going to look like child's play, what we're currently witnessing. Eventually this is going to look like child's play. This is monetary mayhem on steroids, on crack, on meth, on a lethal dose of all of the above. What do you think, Tim?
Well, a few years ago, Richard Fisher, the former Dallas Fed president, on CNBC said that the economy was running on heroin and cocaine. This is the former Fed president saying this. And then now is being maintained on Ritalin. But that was 4 years ago, being maintained on Ritalin, because now it's being stimulated by fentanyl. But you know what? You keep taking fentanyl, it's probably going to eventually kill you. And so we're in a spot now where we're taking all these hardcore drugs, and those drugs have to then take more of them in order to get like the fix, in order to get the high feeling, but eventually if you keep doing that, you're going to end up, killing yourself, killing the economy in the metaphor. And if you, are at the point where you're addicted to all these drugs, you try to get off of it, the withdrawal is going to also kill you too. So, do something now to help protect your wealth. I mean, we've, talked about this a lot, but there are, things you could do now to help protect yourself. You guys want to go to thelibertyadvisor.com. There's still, right now I am pretty much booked up to like the middle of August, but I do have some openings in the next couple days. So, with this being, Tuesday, but, I could probably fit you in Thursday, Friday. If you guys want to email me at tim@innovativewealth.com, I think I've got spots for probably 3 more each days, but, you guys email me and, the first 3 people on each day, I will fit in. After that, you're going to have to go back. And
but what we're witnessing right now, Tim, it's really interesting because we're witnessing the U.S. government do a lot of what the IMF does to countries and what China does to countries. They're loaning a bunch of money and then basically taking over their livelihoods to pay off the debt, because these guys can't pay off the debt that they're being giving. It's like in Canada when the government gave a bunch of people, coronavirus loans, and all these people got these loans, not knowing they were loans, and spent the money, and then found out they had to pay it back, and now they're financing with banks. I mean, it's the perfect storm for them if we don't watch what we're doing as individuals, take leadership over our own life, over our own finances, and stop being a dependent slave, because this is what it's all about, making us dependent. The more dependent the populace, the more subservient the populace. So going forward, obviously, as he mentioned, thelibertyadvisor.com if you want to become a client. How much longer can this go on? I mean, how much longer can they possibly prolong these programs before enough is enough? I mean, there has to be some breaking point. I would have thought it was a long time ago, but there has to be some breaking point here somewhere.
I mean, it might be when the interest is at $1 trillion a year, even when the interest is going to be like 0.12%. And eventually, at that point, maybe the average person out there will be able to figure things out. But I'm surprised we're not already at that point, frankly. So, we're sort of in overtime, and, use that to your advantage. Use it to your advantage, the fact that, things were manipulated down like gold and silver for a long time. And now you can get into it relatively cheaper than what without the manipulation, it probably would be at. And, it's just, scary times. Unfortunately, we've been, predicting a lot of the stuff that they're going to be able to do. And in a long enough time horizon, they've already lost control, which is why they have to do this stuff. I mean, if they have to, stimulate during the greatest economy ever, and they need to stimulate during, the stock market, basically an all-time high, and bond yields at pretty much an all-time low, then, when are they going to be able to pull this funding? The answer is they're not going to be able to pull it. These are going to be permanent type programs. Maybe they go away for a month or 2 or 5 months or 6 months, but then they come back even bigger because, the economy can't even handle that. And this was unfortunately a big fat ugly bubble that Trump inherited. And, instead of, and to his credit, if he came in and gave the Ron Paul, philosophical angle of what was going on, he'd get crucified, and then they'd end up, blaming everything on him, but also
shooting him in the head.
But ultimately, we'd be in a spot where things would be better off long term. But he came in, did the easier thing, and through his 40 chest, wanted to get the economy going, get people jobs, get reelected again, and then at that point, maybe, hopefully, if optimistically, then maybe at that point he'd do the right thing and either end the Fed or use the bully pulpit to do the right thing. But at this point, I think everything is lost, because I don't think he's going to get back in. He's not going to be able to do everything that we were told with trust the plan. And we've got a lot less freedoms. I mean, you can't even go outside without a mask now. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet is over twice the size of when he came in, and there's no end to that. And unfortunately, we've got less freedoms, a Fed that's even more out of control, twice as big as it was before, and I think it's going to be a blue wave. And even if it's not going to be a blue wave, we've got Trump advocating socialist type policies, and you've got a lot of Republicans, who are sounding like Bernie bros. And that's, even Rand Paul, that was his direct quote, is Republican senators sound like Bernie bros. And the spending is out of control. There's no way they can stop it, because stopping it would be painful, and they never want to do any short-term pain, even if long-term it puts us on a better path. So because they're not willing to do the painful things now, it's going to be way more painful later on, because the drugs, in this analogy, that we need to fix things, it's going to be so great that it's going to kill the patient, being the economy. And, Josh was, talking about, getting shot in the head, but, but we're just saying, from the deep state. Now, we're not hoping that, we're not advocating that. It's just, when people historically, like Andrew Jackson, tried getting rid of the Second Central Bank of America and did, but there was a gunman that came up to him, point blank range, shot two revolvers, both of them misfired. The guy said it was wealthy Europeans that put him up to it. Abraham Lincoln said, I have an army in front of me, that's the South, and an army of European bankers at my rear and a far more fielded army at my rear. And then you've got even guys like JFK trying to put the U.S. back on a silver standard at one point. He was taken out. So whether it's a conspiracy or not, it's just, coincidental that, every president that has tried doing something about this, did end up with lead. But
don't forget about Garfield and McKinley, specifically McKinley and his feelings on free markets and gold and all that kind of stuff in his meetings with central bankers. It's really important that people as free individuals are free individuals. They live by example. They live free. They live responsibly. Responsibility is a basis of freedom in itself. There's no collective responsibility. Collective responsibility is a nice way of saying slavery. Collective responsibility is not responsibility. It's an oxymoron. Responsibility is an individualistic thing, and it comes down to you as free individuals being responsible, and that's how you break free from any form of dependence that'll put you on their knees and put you in a situation where you have to be basically a slave to the state, a slave to the banks, a slave to the central banks, a slave to a system that's built to enslave you. Break free. Stop messing around. It's time that you save up. You prepare yourself. You be a bit of a prepper. All the stuff we were called crazy for years has come true. So at what point do we go, oh, I see. We should probably, I don't know, be human beings and prepare ourselves for the worst and hope for the best. I mean, that's how we lived for the millennia. So anyway, I appreciate you going into this with us, Tim. We are going to go into this and much more very shortly. We got lots of videos coming up, so stay tuned for us. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Share on social media to help get around the shadow banning. Obviously, we are on Flote, BitChute, LBRY, and Minds, so find us there, as we won't be on YouTube past November 5th. November 5th and onward, remember the 5th of November, we will be only posting trailers to our full content on these other sites because they're going to take us down anyway, and they've completely demonetized us. Most of our friends, Press for Truth was taken down off YouTube. You can find him on all these other platforms as well. But I mean, it's endgame. It's endgame because they know our propaganda is working because we're telling the truth and the other propagandists are telling the lies. And we need to follow the path of freedom and truth and individualism if we want to survive this. So obviously we are completely viewer funded. So check our links for GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, Bitcoin, Cointree, where you can send in different cryptocurrencies. All linked below. Join our newsletter at www.iamband.com, and of course become a client of Tim Picciott at thelibertyadvisor.com. Everything is linked below, so check those links below if you want to get a t-shirt, a Wham t-shirt. Got lots of those in our Teespring store, lots of options. So anyway, I really appreciate you going into this with us, Tim. We're going to come back at you with much more very shortly. Stay tuned. This is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep Wham alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.